My name is Liam Parker, and until 6 months ago, I believed I had the perfect arrangement with my wife. At 45, I'd built a career as a software architect that provided us with everything we needed: the 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester, the BMW in the garage, the country club membership Chloe insisted we needed for networking. I dealt in logic and precision 8 hours a day, architecting systems that processed millions of transactions without fail. I trusted those systems because I understood them. I trusted my marriage for the same reason. Chloe and I had been married 15 years. We met when she was a marketing coordinator at a tech startup where I consulted. She was vibrant then, ambitious, sharp, always the one organizing happy hours and team outings. After our 5th anniversary, she transitioned to what she called her real calling, managing our social life and sitting on charity boards. I supported the decision. My salary more than covered our expenses, and someone needed to handle the dinner parties, fundraisers, and social obligations that came with our tax bracket. Our weeks had a rhythm. Monday through Friday, I'd leave at 7 for my commute into the city, returning around 8. Chloe would have dinner waiting, not homemade anymore, but expertly plated takeout from whatever restaurant was trending. We'd eat while she told me about her day, the drama at the country club, the politics of the hospital fundraising committee, her Pilates instructor's divorce. But Saturdays were sacred. Every Saturday night for the past 18 months, Chloe had her girls' night out with Sarah, Rebecca, and Amanda, wives from our social circle who'd become her closest friends. She'd start getting ready at 4, trying on 3 different outfits before settling on something that cost more than most people's rent. The transformation was remarkable. The woman who wore yoga pants all week would emerge looking like she belonged on a Manhattan rooftop bar. "Don't wait up," she'd always say, kissing my cheek, careful not to smudge her lipstick. "You know how we get when the wine starts flowing." She'd return Sunday mornings, usually around 11, looking exhausted but exhilarated. Her stories were always the same: dinner at some impossible-to-book restaurant, wine tastings, deep conversations about life and marriage and dreams deferred. Sometimes she'd mention dancing, but always with a laugh about how they were too old for clubs, but did it anyway. I never questioned it. Why would I? This was our arrangement. I handled the technical problems, the mortgage, the investment portfolio. She handled the social dynamics that exhausted me, the small talk at parties, the careful maintenance of relationships I found draining. We were complementary, I told myself. A perfect system. Looking back, there were signs. The way she'd angle her phone away when texting. Her new password on her laptop for identity theft protection, she'd explained. The increasing frequency of her complaints about other couples we knew. How boring their marriages seemed. How predictable their husbands were. The way she'd sometimes look at me during dinner with an expression I couldn't quite read. Was it pity? Contempt? I'd attributed it to the natural evolution of a long marriage. Our physical intimacy had declined, but that seemed normal too. We were busy people in our 40s, not newlyweds. When she'd turn away at night, claiming exhaustion from her busy day of lunch meetings and yoga classes, I didn't push. I respected her space, her autonomy. That's what modern marriages required, wasn't it? I'd always been someone who solved problems by digging deeper into the data. When a system failed at work, I'd trace every variable, examine every log file until I found the root cause. It was this instinct, this need to understand through information, that would eventually lead me to the truth about Chloe's Saturday nights. But that particular Saturday night 2 weeks ago, working late on a particularly complex integration project while Chloe was out with the girls, I just felt restless. An unusual energy hummed through me, a sense that something in my perfectly ordered life was out of alignment. I had no idea how right I was. That Saturday 2 weeks ago started like any other. Chloe spent the afternoon in her usual pre-girls' night ritual, and I settled into my home office to tackle a software framework migration. But concentration eluded me. The code that usually absorbed me completely seemed meaningless, just patterns on a screen. Around 10, I gave up and wandered into our shared home office, the desktop we barely used anymore in our age of laptops and tablets. I'd been meaning to research a new JavaScript framework, and sometimes the larger monitor helped me focus. The computer hummed to life, and Chrome opened to Chloe's Facebook page. She was still logged in. A red notification bubble showed 3 new messages in something called Girls' Night. I should have logged out. Respected her privacy, but that restlessness, that sense of misalignment, made me click. The screen filled with messages, photos, videos. My brain, trained to process complex data structures, couldn't initially parse what I was seeing. There was Chloe, Sarah, Rebecca, and Amanda, but not at any wine bar. Hotel rooms, different men in various states of undress, money changing hands. My stomach dropped as I clicked a video thumbnail. Chloe's unmistakable laugh filled my office, followed by her voice. God, after a week of Liam's boring ass, I need this so bad. The camera shook, but I could see enough. More than enough. I became a machine then, operating on pure instinct. Screenshot, save, download. My fingers moved with the same precision I used to debug critical systems. Every message, every photo, every video saved to an encrypted external drive I grabbed from my desk drawer. The metadata told its own story. 18 months of Saturday nights, dozens of hotels, a rotating cast of hired entertainment. The messages were worse than the images. They discussed prices, preferences, ratings for different services. Sarah had a spreadsheet. Rebecca recommended a new agency that was very discreet, cash only. Amanda warned about using credit cards after what happened to that woman in Karen's book club, but it was Chloe's messages that cut deepest. She described our love life in cruel detail, mocking my methodical approach to everything, including intimacy. She'd even shared a photo of me sleeping, captioned, "The most action he's seen in months." The financial records were embedded in their planning. Hundreds of dollars every Saturday charged to our joint cards as restaurant bills, spa treatments, shopping. I'd been funding my own humiliation, working 60-hour weeks to pay for their entertainment. I found myself doing what I always did with complex problems, creating a timeline, mapping patterns. They had codes. Wine tasting meant one thing, dance class another. The real book club wasn't discussing literature. Their charity planning meetings had nothing to do with raising funds for the hospital. By the time I heard Chloe's car in the driveway at 11:47 a.m. Sunday morning, I had everything. 63 gigabytes of evidence, all organized, cataloged, and backed up to 3 different locations. My wife stumbled into our bedroom reeking of perfume, not her own, and alcohol, mumbling about too much wine before collapsing onto our bed. I sat in my office, staring at the external drive that contained the end of my marriage. The Liam from yesterday might have confronted her immediately, might have raged or cried or demanded answers, but that Liam was gone. In his place sat someone else, someone who understood that emotion was just another variable to be controlled. And revenge, like software, required careful architecture. Chloe slept peacefully in our bed, probably dreaming of her next Saturday night adventure. She had no idea that her husband, boring, predictable Liam, had just become the architect of her destruction. The same methodical nature she mocked would be the instrument of her downfall. I opened a new spreadsheet and began planning. Every good system needed documentation, and this would be my masterpiece. Not just the end of my marriage, but the complete, systematic dismantling of the lie she'd been living. The external drive sat next to my keyboard, a black rectangle holding secrets that would destroy 4 marriages. But first, I needed to be smart, strategic. After all, I'd always been good with systems. Monday morning after my discovery, I kissed Chloe goodbye like always. She barely stirred, still recovering from her weekend activities. I drove to work, but called in sick from the parking garage, then headed to the offices of Arthur Vance, the divorce attorney whose name appeared regularly in the New York Society pages for high-profile, high-conflict divorces. Vance's office occupied the top floor of a Manhattan high-rise, all glass and chrome and carefully curated intimidation. The man himself looked like a shark in a $3,000 suit, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, with a smile that never quite reached his eyes. "Mr. Parker," he said after I'd presented my evidence with the same PowerPoint precision I used for board presentations. In 30 years of practice, I've rarely seen documentation this comprehensive. Your wife and her friends weren't just careless. They were arrogant. He leaned back, fingers steepled. This isn't just grounds for divorce. This is complete annihilation. The financial fraud alone, using marital assets for this purpose, would guarantee you an extremely favorable settlement. I don't just want a divorce, I told him firmly. I want to ensure she gets nothing, and there's more. I explained about Mark and James, about the systematic nature of the deception. Vance's shark smile widened. Coordinated filing. Brilliant, he responded with appreciation. They won't be able to share resources or strategies. I can have my associates ready for your friends, assuming they're interested. Back home that evening, I studied Chloe with new eyes. She chattered about her day, lunch with her mother, a Nordstrom sale, drama at the club, while I nodded and responded appropriately. Inside, I documented everything. The lies flowed so easily. She mentioned stopping by Sarah's house, but the Find My iPhone app I'd finally thought to check showed her at a hotel downtown for 2 hours. You seem distracted, she observed over dinner. Rough day at work? Complex integration project, I replied truthfully. Multiple systems that need to sync perfectly. She rolled her eyes dismissively. God, you and your systems. Sometimes I wonder if you dream in code. Sometimes, I agreed, noting the contempt in her voice I'd previously missed. That night, while she soaked in the bath with her phone, texting her group. No doubt, I reviewed our finances more carefully. The Saturday night expenses were just the tip. There were other patterns. Cash withdrawals every Friday, mysterious Amazon purchases shipped to Sarah's house, a credit card I didn't know existed. Tuesday, I met Mark for lunch. He was a decent guy, an accountant who'd married Sarah straight out of college. I chose a quiet restaurant and waited until after we'd ordered. Mark, I need to show you something difficult, I began carefully. His face went through the stages, confusion, denial, anger, devastation, as he reviewed the USB drive contents on his laptop. His hands shook as he scrolled through messages of Sarah describing him as practically a roommate and hung like a field mouse. How long have you known? He whispered. 3 days, I answered. I've hired Arthur Vance. He's willing to coordinate if you're interested. Mark's transformation was faster than mine. The mild-mannered accountant straightened, his jaw set. Sarah's been pressuring me to refinance the house for her investment opportunity, he revealed. I almost did it last week. Wednesday was James. The marketing manager took it harder. He was younger, still believed his marriage to Rebecca was salvageable until he saw the videos. She'd been particularly cruel in her messages, sharing intimate photos of James with mocking commentary. They laugh at us, he said, staring at his beer. We're just jokes to them. Not anymore, I assured him. Now we're the punchline they won't see coming. By Thursday, we had our alliance. 3 men, 3 lawyers, all from Vance's firm, 1 coordinated strategy. We spent the evening at Mark's house. Sarah was at her mother's, planning the timeline. Every detail scrutinized, every contingency considered. Next Saturday, I proposed. They'll be out feeling invincible. We serve papers Sunday morning when they're hungover and off guard. Simultaneous? Mark asked for confirmation. Within the same hour, I confirmed. No warning system. James raised his beer. To the end of illusions. We clinked bottles. 3 men who'd been made fools of, now united in purpose. The funny thing about betrayal, it strips away everything except clarity. Chloe thought I was boring, predictable. She was about to learn that predictable could be another word for methodical. And methodical men make the most dangerous enemies. Arthur Vance's conference room became our war room that Friday. 3 laptops, dozens of printed documents, and enough evidence to destroy 3 marriages spread across the mahogany table. Vance had assigned each of us an associate from his firm, hungry young lawyers who smelled blood in the water. Gentlemen, Vance began, addressing us all, the key to this operation is synchronization. Mrs. Parker, Mrs. Brooks, and Mrs. Williams must be served within the same hour Sunday morning. Any deviation gives them time to coordinate. Mark's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Jennifer, pulled up a timeline on her tablet. Based on their typical Saturday night pattern, they return home between 11 a.m. and noon on Sundays, she explained. We'll have process servers stationed at each residence from 10:30 a.m. What about Amanda? James asked. She's not married, but she's been profiting from this too. Leave her, I advised. She'll be collateral damage when her three best friends' lives implode simultaneously. Plus, she's our wild card. They might gather at her place where we can document their reaction. We spent 2 hours reviewing the specific claims for each divorce filing. The evidence was overwhelming, but Vance wanted airtight cases. Financial fraud for using marital assets, adultery with documented proof, emotional cruelty substantiated by their own messages. Mrs. Parker's credit card fraud alone could result in criminal charges, Vance noted. She's been structuring cash withdrawals to avoid reporting requirements. No criminal charges, I decided. I want her desperate, not in jail. Desperate people make mistakes. Mark had done his own investigation, discovering Sarah had been skimming from their investment account. James found Rebecca had taken out loans against his 401k without his knowledge. The financial betrayal ran as deep as the physical. That evening, we met at my house while Chloe attended her book club planning meeting. My home office became command central. Mark had created a shared encrypted folder where we compiled everything. James used his marketing skills to create a presentation that laid out the entire 18-month timeline. Look at this. Mark pointed to a pattern in the data. They always use the same hotels, rotating between 4 locations. Same rooms even. They got comfortable, James observed. Arrogant, I corrected. They think we're too stupid to notice, too weak to act if we did. We ordered pizza and spent the night fine-tuning our approach. Not just the legal strategy, but the aftermath. Where would we be Sunday when the papers were served? How would we handle the inevitable phone calls, the tears, the threats? No contact after service, I insisted. All communication through lawyers. They'll try to manipulate us individually. What about mutual friends? Mark asked. The country club, the social circles? Full transparency, James suggested. Control the narrative before they can spin it. I pulled up the Facebook group chat. I've got screenshots of them mocking other couples we know. Tom and Jennifer, Brad and Ann, even the Bradys. Everyone they've socialized with has been ridiculed in these messages. Nuclear option, Mark breathed. That would destroy their entire social standing. Only if necessary, I said. We keep that in reserve. Saturday arrived with surreal normalcy. Chloe went through her usual routine, even asking my opinion on 2 different dresses. The black one, I suggested. Knowing she'd choose the opposite. You always pick black, she laughed, selecting the red dress. So predictable. I watched her preparation ritual with detached fascination. The careful makeup application, the precise hairstyling, the expensive perfume, all for strangers in hotel rooms. She hummed while she dressed, happier than I'd seen her in months. Don't wait up, she said cheerfully, the same word she'd used for 18 months. I won't, I replied for the last time. After she left, I met Mark and James at a sports bar. We didn't talk about tomorrow, just watched the game and drank beer like normal men on a Saturday night. But I saw the same look in their eyes I felt in mine, the calm before devastation. 10 hours, Mark said as we parted. 10 hours, we agreed in unison. I drove home to my empty house, Chloe's perfume still lingering in the bedroom. I sat in my office with the external drive, reviewing everything one last time. The system was perfect, every variable accounted for, every outcome modeled. Tomorrow, the house of cards would collapse. Tonight, I slept better than I had in years. Sunday morning arrived gray and drizzling, pathetic fallacy at its finest. I made coffee and sat in the kitchen watching the clock. 10:47 a.m. The process server would be arriving soon. Chloe's car pulled into the driveway at 11:23, later than usual. She stumbled slightly getting out, her makeup smeared, her expensive dress wrinkled. The red dress I'd known she'd choose. She fumbled with her keys, finally managing the door. Rough night? I asked from the kitchen doorway. She jumped, startled. Jesus, Liam, you scared me. Yeah, too much wine. Sarah was going through something with Mark. Needed support. The doorbell rang at 11:31. Precise. I'll get it, I said calmly. The process server was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and steel underneath. "Chloe Parker?" she asked professionally. Chloe appeared behind me, confused. "Yes?" she answered uncertainly. "You've been served," the woman stated, handing her the envelope and walking away. "What the hell?" Chloe tore open the package, her hands shaking from either hangover or adrenaline. As she read, her face transformed, confusion to shock to rage to fear, all in seconds. "What is this?" She waved the papers frantically. "Some kind of joke?" "No joke," I replied evenly. "I know about the hotels, the men, all of it." "I don't know what you're talking about," she protested. But her voice cracked. I pulled out my phone, showing her a screenshot from the Facebook group. Her face in a hotel room, timestamp from last night. 18 months, Chloe, every Saturday." She sank onto the couch, papers falling to the floor. "How?" she whispered. "You left your Facebook logged in," I explained. "But even without that, did you really think I wouldn't notice? The charges, the lies, the contempt you can barely hide anymore? It didn't mean anything," she started desperately, the classic cheater's defense. "Just fun, blowing off steam." "You're so rigid, boring. I needed something more." "So you hired it?" I asked coldly, her face flushed with anger. "You don't understand the pressure of maintaining our social standing while you sit in your office all day." "Our social standing?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean the one funded entirely by my boring job?" She switched tactics, tears appearing on command. "We can work through this," she pleaded. "Counseling. I'll stop, I promise." "Mark and James know too," I informed her. The tears stopped instantly. "What?" she gasped. "Sarah and Rebecca are being served right now," I continued. "Your whole little club is finished." Her phone started buzzing. Sarah's name appeared, then Rebecca, then Amanda. "The group chat exploding in real time! You vindictive bastard!" she snarled. "The mask completely off now." "You had no right to involve them." "I had every right," I countered. "You involved them first," she stood, pacing frantically. "I'll fight this," she threatened. "I'll take everything. Half of your boring little fortune?" "With what lawyer?" I asked. "You have no access to our accounts as of this morning. Credit cards canceled. And that evidence I mentioned? Your attorney will love the part where you describe detailed plans to hide assets during a future divorce." Her phone rang. Sarah hysterical on speaker before Chloe could stop her. "Mark locked me out. The accounts are frozen." "What do we do?" "Get Amanda," Chloe said urgently. "We need to coordinate." "No coordination," I interrupted. "Your phones will be subpoenaed. Everything you say to each other becomes evidence." She hung up on Sarah and turned on me. 15 years, she said accusingly. "You're throwing away 15 years. You threw them away 18 months ago," I corrected. "I'm just taking out the trash." "Where am I supposed to go?" she demanded. "I've packed your essentials," I informed her. 2 suitcases in the garage. The Marriott has a reservation under your name, paid for 1 week. After that, you're on your own." "You can't just kick me out of my home?" she screamed. "Actually, I can," I stated factually. "The house is in my name only. You insisted, remember?" Something about protecting assets from potential lawsuits. Ironic, really. Her phone buzzed continuously. The implosion of her social circle in real time. She grabbed the suitcases, her face alternating between rage and panic. "You'll regret this," she said from the doorway. "When you're alone in this house with your computers and your spreadsheets, you'll realize what you've lost." "What I lost never existed," I replied. "It was just another Saturday night lie." She slammed the door. Through the window, I watched her throw the suitcases into her car, phone pressed to her ear, probably trying to reach Amanda. My phone buzzed. Mark texted, "Done. She's gone." Then James. "Rebecca's at her mother's, claiming I'm abusive." I typed back, "Stay strong. Let the lawyers work." The house felt different without her, not empty but clean. Like debugging code and finally getting it to compile correctly. I made fresh coffee and sat in my office, looking at the external drive that had started everything. Chloe was wrong. I wasn't alone. I was free. The rain outside had stopped and sun broke through the clouds. 6 months later, I stood in my kitchen making breakfast, NPR playing softly on the radio. The house felt different now. Still neat, still organized but lived in rather than staged. The formal dining room Chloe insisted on had become my workshop for building custom keyboards, a hobby I'd discovered post-divorce. The divorce had been swift and brutal, exactly as Arthur Vance promised. Chloe got minimal alimony for 2 years, no equity in the house, and none of my retirement. The evidence was too overwhelming. Her lawyers advised her to take the deal. She fought anyway, making it worse. Mark texted our group chat. We still met monthly for beers. Saw Sarah at Whole Foods, working the checkout, he wrote. The falls had been spectacular. Sarah lost everything in the divorce and moved back with her parents. Rebecca's attempt to claim abuse backfired when James's lawyers produced her messages, laughing about playing the victim card if caught. She'd fled to Florida to live with a cousin, Chloe's. Descent was the most dramatic. After burning through her settlement trying to maintain appearances, she'd taken a job at a boutique in town. The same women she'd served on charity boards now avoided her. Her Instagram, once filled with champagne and designer bags, had gone dark. Amanda, the unmarried fourth member, initially tried to rally them, but when the full evidence became semi-public during the divorces, she was ostracized too. The country club quietly revoked her membership. The charity boards found reasons to request her resignation. The irony, James had said at our last meetup, is they created their own destruction. If they'd just had affairs, it would have been survivable. But the mockery, the financial fraud, the systematic deception, they built a bomb and lit the fuse themselves. I'd started dating recently. Nothing serious, just coffee with a woman from my running club. She was refreshingly direct, owned her own business, and found my systematic nature amusing rather than boring. When I told her about Chloe, a simplified version, she'd laughed. So she thought predictable was an insult? She had asked. Predictable means reliable. It means trustworthy. It means someone who shows up. The house was mine now in ways it never was during the marriage. My office expanded into Chloe's former dressing room. The basement became a proper workshop. The pretentious art came down, replaced by concert posters from bands I'd loved in college. Sometimes I wondered if I'd been too harsh, if complete destruction was necessary. Then I'd remember finding those videos, reading her cruel messages, discovering the depth of the deception. She hadn't just cheated. She'd built an entire infrastructure of lies and made me the unwitting financier. My phone buzzed. A LinkedIn notification. I'd been promoted to Chief Technology Architect, a position that came with equity and a substantial raise. The same focus Chloe had mocked had advanced my career beyond what either of us had imagined. I raised my coffee mug to the empty kitchen, toasting my ex-wife wherever she was. "Thanks for the motivation, Chloe," I said aloud. Turns out predictable can be pretty powerful when properly deployed. Outside, Sunday morning stretched ahead, peaceful, honest, and entirely mine. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.